and then like at some point it was like going internet like down and stuff. So I don't know if it is just internet going up and down or not.
Mine goes up quite a bit.
You said, didn't you? I think it's your router in that room. I do. Right, let's try again. Got to try and remember I've got to go pick the Mustang up, otherwise I'll forget it's there.
Just mention that then. Yeah.
Like, where is it? Yeah, it's just in for something to do with some ingress, like they've got a gasket that's could let water inside the car or some shit. Right, we should be good now. I think it dropped Twitch. I was messing, in fairness, I was messing with all the stream settings as well right before coming on, changing it to a advanced mode and playing with. I probably should have left it as the default stuff basically, but it could have just been internet drop. Plus now we're not streaming on TikTok, so that'll save a bit of bandwidth. And actually, let me also move that chat back now. TikTok, I can actually move the chat on the vertical back into view. So we show the logos. There we go. So now the chat will appear properly over the top. So yeah, hopefully it's... I don't think it was the internet dropping. I think it was just more me messing with settings maybe. And luckily, this is like... We're just about to start this job, so this is like not necessarily... we haven't really missed anything, if you know what I mean, on the previous stream. All we've done is taken a look at this. So I'll probably just give it a minute to actually let the stream kick in, and then we will fit this BIOS chip, basically. Well, we've got to repair all the traces, then we'll fit the BIOS. YouTube, I think, is now up. 15, yeah, YouTube kicked in like a minute ago. Oh yeah, we've got half of the chats from YouTube, so I think we're good to go. Right, so for newcomers, if they start this stream from fresh, what we've got is a customer's removed the BIOS. They were going to do a BIOS swap. This is the Japanese cake region-free BIOS. It looks like, I presume they just removed the old BIOS first and ripped traces, not necessarily removed the old one, installed a new one, then done damage. This is more than likely just been ripped, taking it off by the looks of it. So we've got a hell of a lot of trace repair to do, which I think I'm just going to leave wires out past the pads that need to be repaired, I think. I mean, what I could do, yeah, I think that's the simplest thing, because we've got so many to do and a certain time frame to do them in. I think I'm just going to attach wires to the traces, pull them out past the pins, and then solder the chip down, attach the wire to it. And where there's the ones like this, where there's a rip trace on this side and this side here, and this side here, and yeah, there's loads. Where they're outside, we'll repair them after. We'll leave the wire passing way past, maybe. Or to be honest, what we'll do is, for those ones, we'll attach the wire here and here, make sure it's stripped right the way through, and then we can solder the pad down. So I think it's easier to just do than think about too much. So we want to go to, where are we? There. Right, let's start with this one then, I guess. And I want to kind of do this under the microscope, though, to be honest, because I need to see what I'm doing. Pull this cable a bit tight. Let's get it. Wow, what the hell? Oh, this could be a problem. Let me pull this into focus so you can actually see what I'm seeing. Actually, can you even see? Is this the camera? Oh. Something's definitely wrong with this camera. Let's unplug power. Plug it back. Oh, I haven't switched. Something wrong with the camera. I haven't even switched to the microscope. That's why. I was like, why can't you see what I'm doing? There we go. Right, so I've got to pull focus. Yeah, this is a bigger problem than I thought. Can you tell with no depth perception? This is a crater in the board. This isn't even just like a rip trace. There's a physical, look, tweezers are hitting. Like, the customer's gone down a good millimetre, like into the board. There's a massive crater. Like these are major torn traces. This is a problem mainly because this is a multi-layer board. I don't know how many layers. Oh, actually, is it not a multi-layer board? No, it doesn't. No way. It's got to be, because that's a BGA. Yeah, it's got to be. There's no way that... No, it's all on top. I think it is a 2-layer board. I would have just presumed this was 4-layer, but I think it's actually a 2-layer board. Hey, finally catching you live. Welcome in. I think what they've done is... to be honest, I don't know. I'm just more confused as to how is that pad so far down and still a pad? That's me concern. I don't think this is... I think this is an inner layer. And these need covering up. This isn't the pad. This is what we're looking at here is the inner layer of the PCB, I'm pretty sure. So, like, look in there. That's... Like, if I tilt up and maybe get you some depth perception, look at the crater. It's like... That is a huge divot into the board. There's no way that... It looks so strange. See, if I'd have known what they'd done, I'd be a bit more confident, but I think what they've done there, I don't know how viable this is going to be. I think what they've done is rip the pads off and for some bizarre reason scrape through the board, trying to find a trace that doesn't exist, and dug down into a middle layer, which might not be a problem. We can cover. I think we need to cover all these up. Yeah, I think we're just gonna have to cover them up. This would probably just be, yeah, you can see here. So see this light green here, this Al. That is where there's no copper. And then you see this dark green here, this outline. And then this dark green here. So if we flip the board over where that is, you can see there's nothing this side. So this is where that dark green Al shape is. We flip over and you can see this here, this visible lighter green, and then this dark green and this dark green here. This is a middle layer. It's a 4-layer PCB. So what they've actually done is they've dug clean through the board to this inner layer here, this dark green. Same here, here, here. So to prove that, these two pads would be joined. That's how you'll kind of know they've dug through to the inner layers of the circuit board, which I don't know why you'd do that. I presume they just thought a pad had, I don't know, got inside the board. I have no idea. Yeah, so that's the inner layer of the circuit board. They've gutted it. Right, so we need to resin fill this first then. Getting even more fun. Right, let's do something instead of just staring at a board and realising how fucked it is. So first thing I want to do is cover this board. Now, do I have... Yeah, I've got this here. Get some clear... You can't even see it on camera. Clear... Well, I have to zoom out to this one. So I've got like clear sheet, basically. Doesn't matter what it is. I use that to squish the resin flat before we cure it. So you'll see what I'm doing in a minute. Oh, you got any cotton wobbles? Got none at all, man. Yeah, I think I don't know. I can only presume the person that's done it just simply didn't realise that the pads were physically lifted off, and then maybe they've seen one of them shining and they've gone, oh, it's just underneath, and scraped, and then for some reason scraped all of them. I don't know. That's all I can think. So because these are not the pads we need to connect to, and the only other problem here is if there's any other traces running underneath, which it doesn't look like there is because you can quite clearly see there's a big fat plane here. So one will be ground, one might be power. You can see them there, that dark green. So luckily there's nothing underneath here, like, you know, other traces that could be running. Because if they'd have blown through that, then we've got bigger problems. But I think we're going to be hopeful of this works, but I think they have just dug through into two planes. So I'm just going to put a little bit of, I'll say a little bit, that's a ton. Put loads of resin on here, we can always scrape it off. So that's the resin over, and then the reason I use this previous sheet is if we cut this to about the size of the big size of the area, we can then push this over. Like so, push it like flat onto the board, and then when we cure it, it'll kind of cure. This won't be super neat because it's going to be a bit awkward to press down such a large area in one go. There's that much damage, but do we have resin over there? Yeah, we do. So we'll push down. Could probably do with a clear plastic to push down with as well. But normally I'm only curing a tiny area and this doesn't matter too much. Let's just try cure this area flat first. And then push this area. Plenty on that, and get that cured. Two mist in the bottom row. I'm pretty sure I've got resin everywhere, to be honest, here, but we'll check in a second. And then that now will peel off, and you'll be left with all the resin coming up. So that didn't work. So we've got a nice imprint of the the traces though. So that's probably just need to try that again. It's probably in such a large area. I mean, the other thing we can do is just cover it with the resin and then sand it down is probably simpler because there's so many areas to cover. I don't think it's going to work the way I'd normally do it, which is to I'd normally, like, you know, be covering one pad and then it stays on, but in this case there's that much. I think it's going to be easier to just cure this as a whole and then grind down to the pad, well, sand down to the pads. So let's just do that instead. Let's just cure the resin on here. And then we will, what we're going to sand it with. Yep, so we're rock solid now. So we could grind, but I think because we want it kind of a flat surface, I'll just use a little sanding pad, I think. Actually, yeah, sanding pad. Yeah, I'm going to say I've actually got proper sanding stuff, but it's going to be way too aggressive, so we just want a tiny bit of sandpaper, I think, for this. Probably even smaller than that. Like a little block like this. So we just got some what's this, 500 grit. And then because this is all hard, these will be fine. You'll just you'll see copper before you do any damage, so you can kind of just go over this and curl it for now. Sand it back down basically like this. Oh, nice. So I don't speak any other languages, to be honest, so I'm afraid you'll have to just watch. I don't think you really need to know what I'm saying to see what I'm doing, though, to be honest. And then this will clog quite quick, and then just get another piece. And this is the way we'll do it, basically. You can see here now we've exposed, or we're starting to expose the traces here. So it's already, what we might do is a bit of combo. Because it's quite thick here, I might grind it with this first to get this down a bit in the area we know it's thick. And then we'll come back to finish it off when it's lower, basically. And this tip is pretty blunt, to be honest. You can see how hard it is to see when it's actually got IPA and you can't even tell it's covered there. Maybe dry it off a bit so we can see where it is now. There we go. It's better. I think I need a new tip in this. This is shocking. Where are the tips? Let's get a different end for this one, I think. Just gotta find them. Find them grinder tips. Every time I go forget one, I forget where I put them. Oh, that's right there, I think. Hey, welcome in. We are repairing a Dreamcast. So we have this is a Dreamcast that a customer's taken this BIOS off and done a ton of damage to the pads. So they've ripped a load. We've just covered these little shiny bits here are where they've basically dug down into the board to the inner layers. So we've just had to cover it with UV, and then we're grinding this back down so we can expose the pads. But my grinding tip is pretty shite, so I'm just getting another one. Probably, I'm going to try this little ball tip, see if we can grind down fairly decent with that. So let's see if this is any better. Yeah, better. And the idea is we want to grind down, not obviously back to the trace layers, but the resin is then filled in over these holes. So we're not going to solder, you know, put solder down to the bottom basically by mistake. So I don't think we're far off there. I mean, installing Linux on it. I think you can on the Dreamcast, don't you? You probably could these days. There's obviously is it running Windows CE or a variation of it at the time. Right, so they're still covered, but we're close to the surface now. So if we then switch to sanding pad, we're going to ensure that we get a flat grind and that they stay covered, basically. So a bit of work, but not too bad. And it'll take quite a lot of sanding to eat through the copper. So you'd think by rubbing, you know, like rubbing over this, you potentially do damage to the, you know, the other pins, but you actually don't. You've got quite a lot of rubbing until you'd eat through traces. And to be honest, there ain't many traces left on here to worry about anyway. So I think that's that side. The way you'll tell as well on this side is get some flux, go down here, and if we try and tin the pad, that's how you'll know if they're exposed, easier than looking at it. This board is a Dreamcast. I'm not sure whether I've mentioned that already. So you can see by going down here now, you can quite quickly see which ones are exposed and which aren't yet. And we can see the broken trace ones are the ones that we don't want to be exposed anyway because there's a hole in the boards, that's fine. Same with that one. They're broken anyway. So there's just this one here that needs a bit more sanding. What we'll probably do is touch that with the grinder, to be honest. Now we know that one isn't too bad. There we go. And we'll probably get solder to eat through to that. There we go, so just about on that one. Scalpel, not so much on this one because there's obviously there's UV resin all over it, so the scalpels you're not going to get like a good grind. So that looks like now one more flow. We've got all the pads exposed that were originally there. Yeah, so that's all exposed where we want, and the pads that we need to repair are still covered, which is right because they should be covered in the UV resin. So same on this side. Now I can feel there's still quite a big lump there, so we'll probably grind a bit more down here first. And then we'll go back at it with the sandpaper. Now we're close to. Hey, welcome in. And we'll sand this side. I think we're nearly there, just fresh sandpaper. We're grinding off some UV resin. So what we've done is go over to this cam a second. We've got a Dreamcast that the customer's basically taken off a chip here, ripped a load of pads, and then for some reason dug into the board to the inner layers. So these ones here, say this one here and this one here, it's kind of hard to tell now unless you watch back. But that there isn't the pad. That's an inner layer of the circuit board that the customer has kind of dug through into the board to see. So we've had to cover the inner layers with UV resin so that we don't solder to them by mistake. That's why this side, you see all the bits that are still gold, we've covered with UV resin. So, you know, we won't accidentally solder to these gold things because they aren't the actual pad. That's the inner layer that we don't want to solder to. And then we're just doing the same on this side. So we've had to fill the whole board and then sand it back down to flat, just because I tried to squidge it down and there's too many holes in the board to what I'd normally do is like push it flat, and then it only has a little layer of the resin. But in this case, we've just ended up filling it and grinding it back. So all the goal was to fill these holes with resin, basically. I think we're probably almost there, so let's see which one's tin up. So that one we want, that one we didn't want to tin, so that one's gone through. That one isn't, which is good, because that's the one we want to protect. This one hopefully won't, which it hasn't. And they all work. So the only one that's actually gone through is there, which we don't want. So we're going to have to try and fill him back in. This one here, because that's the pad we don't want. Or that's actually going nowhere. That is a no connect pad. There's nothing there. So what we can actually do is just lift that pin on the chip, if so, or does it go to there? What did we say about this third one up? I can't remember now. 1, 2, third one up. I'm going to have to open up the picture to see. Dreamcast. VA1 top. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it goes nowhere. So luckily, all we need to do on that one is make sure the chip, when we solder it down, doesn't go anywhere. So that's the covering done. That's one of many steps. That's part of it. Short-sighted perhaps. Why don't you use a microscope? You will use a microscope in a second for doing the fine work. This isn't really the fine work yet. It's about to be though. Right, so now we need to repair all these traces basically. So we have this one, which obviously has been dug out, which goes to here. So we will get the grinder back, but I think this tip, you have to be careful on this tip. Yeah, it's too big. Let's get another tip on. You have to expose like the vias and solder wires to them. And leave them hanging out. Put this tip back on. So the goal here is going to be this pad. Obviously, ignore this. This isn't the pad, so we're going to go above that. But this is the trace. So we're going to just tack onto this bit here. It's the simplest thing. So we're just going to expose this via just gently, just to expose a pad. Like that, and then we should be able to get some solder, a little ball on that. So there we go, nice and easy. I can probably zoom out a bit as well. We don't need to be that close, I don't think. And then if I just get some enamel wire, and the chip's going to sit a little bit proud for this. Again, not something we're fussed about. The chip's got legs that big that this is not. I'm not overly fussed about doing this basically, because it's quite like, for me this is a large chip in terms of pins, so it's going to be easy to solder no matter what. We can tack on here, and that's the center it up a bit, so it looks better. That's the trace there. So this one just needs to come out to here, and we can get a scalpel. And then what we can do is we can leave them longer. So I'm just going to leave them longer like this, and then we'll cover these after, so that they're secure. And when the chip's down, we'll just expose these legs after and trim them. So we're going to leave them oversized. So that's that one. Then we'll probably want to do some continuity checks as well on the ones that look okay. Someone reckons I'm ruining the board. I think you'll find it's pretty fucked already. This is called repairing the board. So this pin goes nowhere. This one goes all the way over, around, down. So we can probably expose this, go to over here maybe. You just want to check anything that's kind of running through. You want to check you've still got some kind of continuity. Yeah, so he's still good. This one is the one we're going to. So effectively, this via, we want to go to here, I presume. So, yeah, that one's good. This part here, fine. This one here. Those two you can see are good. This one to here, fine. Fine. If they're not torn at the edge of the traces as well, you generally find they're not torn. So you just want to make sure that you can get continuity over. That one obviously isn't connected because that's physically underneath. That's the one we've covered. So we need to attach one here. That one's good. That's obviously missing, but this and this won't connect, obviously, so we need to make sure we go from here to here and have a wire here floating. So what I'll do is attach a wire here, bring him out, and then I'm going to leave that out and we'll attach the leg. You'll see what I'll do there. That one's fine. That one's fine. That's missing. That's missing. That goes nowhere. That's a trace to there, which probably is just covered and needs exposing slightly. So let's get into here. That one might be a broken trace there. Oh no, there we go. Oh, it is actually there. Yeah, so that's actually broken, I think. Yeah, so there's one that doesn't, it connects here. It's actually broken to here. So even though that looks fine, you can see there, that's the trace. So that's why we check, because visually we might have missed, I think. Is there any obvious sign that that's broken? But either way, this via is blown out there. Let's try again. Yeah, so it's definitely blown out. So we'll actually have to recover that via because it doesn't exist from there. So let's do that one now. Otherwise, we're not going to notice that. And that's kind of annoying as well. That's in an awkward spot. Did I have to sand all the traces? Not necessarily. That was just to make sure that the UV was flat. We don't want to, dig into the hole. But when there's been trace damage around, to be honest, I kind of like to take it back to exposed because you don't know where the weak traces are. So it's an easy way to be deceived by what might look like a good trace, but that's actually very, very weak, for example. That might fail. So this kind of, if it can withstand the sandpaper and survive, it's good. And if it doesn't, it kind of highlights weak traces. Like this one might have been perfectly fine until you slightly nudge it or move it and then it breaks. So obviously you can't really see a visible trace damage here, but there's a micro fracture there. So that might have not got seen or exposed if we didn't do this anyway. I don't think the guy that thinks we're ruining a board understands what he's on about. This board's come in for trace damage. This is literally the damage on the board. We're just exposing the damage and fixing it. So we will now expose that end there. And then now if we look, we want to tack it onto this. Yeah, all I did was cover the board with the UV resin. And originally, what we do is, there we go, that's solid now. I'd normally put resin down on the board, so here's like the resin. I'd normally put some down and then get a clear sheet of acetate or anything else and push down so it flattens all the UV nice and flat to the board and then cure it over. We did it with this one, but because there's so much of it, when we peeled off, it came off with the acetate not sticking to the PCB. So all I did was basically cover the area with the UV to make sure it's fully sealed. So these are sealed, that's why they're not getting solder on. And then just sand back down the rest. And that's exposed all these traces clear for us. Same thing like when you're repairing the Amigas and getting rid of the battery damage. This area's been abused and torn up, so you kind of want to take it back to this anyway. You want to expose and make sure all of the pins are good before you commit to putting the chip down. What was the owner trying to do? Not sure. I think they've just probably had a go at soldering it and just messed up. And then I guess if you don't know electronics, I can only think they saw a bit of copper underneath and thought it was a pad and just scraped with tweezers, is my guess. Right, so where were we? We were looking at that trace was fine. Well, wasn't fine rather. That trace is now fine. That's the one that we're not connecting to anyway. This one looks like it needs to potentially be repaired as well. So from here to here Oh, that's good. And this is a perfect example there where we've sanded down and soldered, and the fact it's survived, you know that's perfectly valid. Basically, it's going to work. That's a no connect. This one's blown out, so we need to attach from here and then leave it hanging out, but remember to solder to there. So what we'll do on this one is tack a wire to this via here. Like so. And again, I'm making sure to shape the wires around the traces because they're exposed at the minute. So, you know, you don't want to run over the other traces because they're exposed copper. Yeah, fiberglass pen will work as well. It's just a bit slower. So you would have been there a good while with a fiberglass pen, taking the resin down this much. So there's that. So we follow the trace, come out here, and then we will cut this. We'll cut it slightly oversized, like I say, so we can trim it down after. There's that trace. That one goes nowhere. This one we just need to check it's good. I don't know. Well, the customers paid for a Japanese cake BIOS, so my guess is they were going to do the BIOS. That one's fine, but I don't think they got that far. I think what they did was, this is removing the original chip and they've torn these traces, I reckon. Right, let's go back up at this side now and finish off the traces. So that one's ready to attach. That was good. They're all good. They're all good. This one needs to be reattached. So we will need to expose that little via there. Not that one, that one. And then we can attach a wire to that. And then we can join it to, obviously, the leg that doesn't exist at the minute, because that isn't the pad. So the gold you're seeing there is the inner layer of the board. So we'll tack on that wire there. And we'll just, I'm going to leave him nice and long for now, out of the way. And then I think zoom back out a bit now. That one was good. That one we need to attach to. Now we'll just attach to this trace. Normally, if you're not confident attaching to thin traces, you can follow this all the way around, find a via or find a pin. But I'm just going to attach to that trace, no problem. I'll use a bit of flux for this one, just because it's a trace we want it to go on nice and clean. If you've prepped the wire, straightened it, and you've got flux on, I'm presuming this trace is exposed, this will just tack on nice and easy. There we go, rock solid. And then this is the one where we'll need to attach it to this trace as well. So I'm just going to, again, leave it long, cut it way out the way here for now. That's that one. I'll try and clean up the flux as well. Don't like to have flux on this because when we come to seal this, before we put the chip down, the flux is going to stop the seal. So you don't want to move the pins too much, but you also want to try and clean the flux off the board. So that's why I try not to use flux if I can help it when I'm doing this before I actually, you know, cover the work there. That's oh, got another sub. Thanks for the sub. So this might be, we might have the actual customer, maybe. Home 3280, is that your board maybe? Because we've got a bit of a debate going on as to what happened here, basically, what we're guessing. Because these pads that are exposed that we've now covered aren't actually, they're not the pads, that's an inner layer of the circuit board. So we're trying to figure out potentially what happened, like why they've been sort of dug down and exposed, basically. Wire, this is just solid core enamel wire. This is just 30 gauge enamel wire. Actually, it's probably not even 30 gauge, probably 28 to be honest. Right, zoom in and find out where we were at. So start from the top again. No connect. That one's this wire. That was good, 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 good. Wire, good, wire. This, I'm not 100% sure we checked. I think we did. Yeah, we did. Good, good. This one needs it, so we need a wire from here coming out, a wire from here coming out, or a wire from here. We can do. So 2 more wires there. Basically what happened is when I installed the region-free BIOS, but sent it to a local repair shop and screwed the pad with so they've potentially pulled, basically I think someone's pulled something off the board, but then that's led to somebody definitely digging into the board, I think. But yeah, this is probably if it wasn't being streamed, we'd recommend a new board for this amount of trace repair, because this is significant to do this amount of trace repair on a Dreamcast. I'd literally normally replace the board. I wouldn't bother doing this level of repair, to be honest. But makes good content, I guess. What's the scrape you using? Was that a multimeter probe? Yeah, I was just if you get the sharp tips for probing, you can actually scrape away a little bit of the silk screen or anything covering traces with it. Just a bit of a lazy way of doing it, really. If you can't, you're just testing if traces are connected. I normally just scrape away with the probe itself to be able to get down to just enough copper underneath to test it's connected. Check the email. Cool. I'll open the emails in a sec. Let's see if we can see if it gives us any insight into what happened. And we should. This is going to go down diagonally slightly with that pad. We should be able to get this working, because it's, even though it looks quite bad, all the traces that are missing do look like just inner power rails, nothing too important. Let me just check my emails a minute. I've got loads of emails. I'll just answer emails now, clear these off while I wait a minute. Or if you're not going to send it for a few minutes, I'll carry on. I'm in Paris until Wednesday. We order full Game Gear. I doubt it. Somebody's after ordering a Game Gear now and wants it delivered by Tuesday. We've got like a 3-week lead time. Yeah, these are, you can get really, well, I'm on the wrong camera. These are really expensive. Well, these aren't. You can get these tips really expensive if you buy them. But to be honest, they're just gold-plated tips. So just buy cheap ones off AliExpress and abuse them. Otherwise, if you have the expensive ones, you tend to bend the tips by mistake, and then you've ruined expensive tips. So just use the cheap ones for that. Give me 2 minutes and I'll send you. Cool. Do we need to, if anyone's getting pissed off by this random YouTuber just telling everybody to not talk, let me know and I'll just boot them. Also keep seeing as random things of somebody raging to stop chatting. I think it's the same guy that thinks we're damaging the board. I think you want to sit and watch, just maybe don't abuse the other people in chat. Right, so we've done them two, which go to there. How many pads have we got? 1, 2, 3. So many pads missing. 4 is that one. 5 is that one that's missing that side. 6 is that one. We're missing one. Wow, this is really hard to keep track of where pads are. I'm going to have to pull up an image there because I think we've got that many pads missing here. I can't even keep track of which ones are there. Dreamcast. VA1. I should keep this image open, to be honest, how many times I'm looking at it. Right. Open the stream. So we've got, pull this up over here. Zoom out. We are, I'm technically sideways, but it'll do. Right, just ignore that this is sideways. So basically, this pin here is this pin here. Oh, there rather. So this pin here is this pin here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We've recovered, and there's a via there. We're going to recover 2. 5 goes nowhere, which is right. 6 is here that recovers to both, but we tested and they're all good. So 7's where it gets confusing. 7 is nothing, so this will be here where there's nothing. This one, then there's another pad missing here, so there's 3 pads in a row. It's going to be this one, this one. Oh no, there isn't. There's 2 pads missing. Oh, not good. One, 2, 3. So there's a pad missing here, which is clearly that trace. So we've got that one, which is definitely him. There's a trace blown out here, but there's also a trace blown out here. But there's only 1 pad in between. So I'm guessing this trace goes down to here. And this trace is here. And that's obviously nothing there. Because there's nothing showing there, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7. See, 7 was nothing on this image. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7's a no connect pad. So where's this trace go? Let me see if that email, hopefully that email is going to show us this exact revision before some shit went wrong, hopefully. Yes, it does, kind of. Let's screenshot this and zoom in. Oh yeah, that's already ragged at that point. There's already the inner layer somehow. Right, and is that already on stream? Yeah, so this is the customer's email with the tracing. So this is the part I'm looking at, which, let's try and figure out what's going on here. I could probably do with rotating this, actually. Probably easier to rotate the board than the image for now. Right, so there we go. That's what we're looking at. Let's figure this mess out. So he's good, he's good. So yeah, you can see in the original image how this has got solder on the inner pads, it looks like, but either way, let's ignore. We know it's been screwed somehow, but we know what we're doing, so let's just ignore what's going on. We just need to figure out where the wires are going. 4, that is that trace we're restoring there. That passes through. Then you've got 2 pads here, that's fine. So this is where it gets confusing now here, which, let's go right, zoomed in, so we can try and see what the hell's going on. There's a via right by that dot there as well, but that via's got nothing to do with it. So this pad's definitely nothing here, and then so where's this trace going? This trace is going straight to a pad. So what it is, there's no pad here. There's a pad here, so that wire just needs to move out the way. There's a pad here which this goes to, straight line, which is this one here, and then this one I've attached a wire to, doesn't go anywhere. It's not a bit trace. That's where we're getting confused. So this one there, I've presumed is a rip trace, and he's not. He's just a via coming up. So that explains it. So that's where I was getting confused. So hopefully, with just that, we should be able to carry on figuring it out. So that was actually lucky that you were on stream to show that image, to be honest, because it looked like there's a trace here. See that? That's like where I thought there was a trace coming off, and there obviously isn't. This one we need to go to. So let's just attach that wire we took off. Should be long enough, hopefully. Goes down onto there. There we go. And now that will be straight lines to there. That's nothing. This one is obviously there. So we've got 2 in a row, a missing pad, and then just a recovery trace between the 2 pads. This is going to be fun. Right, and then I think, that's turning back this way, I think we're getting there now. So he's good, he's recovered, he's nowhere, he's recovered, nowhere. That was good, we checked that trace. This one was a pad, but it's going to be both this via and the wire. That goes nowhere. That was good, but let's just double check. Because the last thing you want to do is doubt yourself once the chip's down. When you put the chip down, you want to make sure everything in here is fully connected. Yeah, so we're happy with that. That's nothing. Now, other side. Hopefully this one isn't as bad. So we don't want to go to that, but we can go to this trace. So that I'm not even going to do anything with. There's nothing under the board. We can just scrape this away after and connect to that pin. This, though, is good, which is fine. And then probably want to check it goes to there, which it does. That's a nothingness. Was it the 3rd pad? 1, 2, 3. Yes, that's a nothingness pad. I always doubt if it's that, but it's not. Just started soldering. Any tips and equipment that's needed? I always recommend, it depends on budget, but your soldering iron, you can get what are they called? I2C or Yeehaw, YIHUA. There's a pretty good make these days for like clone soldering irons. They're pretty good, and hot air stations. They have a decent make for decent money on AliExpress. You ideally want leaded solder. You want some Solder King flux, so you can get like this stuff we sell on retro6.co.uk. We've started stocking again, so flux, very important, one of the best things. But if you want more advice on soldering and stuff, I do sub-only streams. I won't have time today because this one's dragging on, but there's a lot of subs. Any chat you see popping up on stream is actually subs. So you get that benefit that you'll see chat popping up. And we do sub-only streams for teaching you how to do all this kind of stuff. So just be a member on, I think it's like your sub on Twitch and it's a member on YouTube, they call it. And then I can always get back to you with more info. You get a bit more one-to-one time in the sub-only streams. I'm thinking of getting the Gotek for the A1200, an external drive. But is there a way to set it to DF0 so we can play games and all? Yeah. So a Gotek on the Amigas, you can do. You can either physically install it inside and set S0 bridge on the Gotek, and then it'll act as DF0, or you can install it externally, and you can put an internal mod inside that's normally called, I think they literally call it like a DF0 switch, and it just toggles the DF0 and DF1 lines when you hold like Amiga command, so you can have an external drive that acts like an internal one. Just search for something like drive selector or DF0 selector, Amiga, basically. But yeah, you can do it. Right, he is no connect, he is okay. This one we've got recovered to here and here, I think. That went through. So we're going to have to attach a wire here, drag him out and follow that curve so we know. So let's attach a wire there. You guys are stuck on DFCO. You have to, you've got it working though now, haven't you? I think on the, I can't even remember where we got up to with that Amiga, to be honest. I know you got it working, but then, was it like you got it working, but your Gotek specifically just wasn't working, wasn't it? That's where we got to. How many tweezers go? There. So that will go around over to there. And then I'll kind of follow this around here. And before we put a chip down, I'll UV resin all these wires into place so they don't move, and we know, when we're soldering down where they're meant to be. But that's clearly going there. That one's a no connect. GoTech won't work externally, but external floppies do. Yeah, you could have. You'd have to send me a photo of how you've got it wired. Like that. Well, to be honest, a GoTech should work externally regardless. So maybe it's just a little, that little. I presume I give you like a little blue wire that wires in. All you've got to look at. Well, I don't know what you've got to look at, to be honest, because it should work regardless of which DF it's set to. DF 0, 1, 2, or 3. It should work. Yeah, should work fine. So I'm not actually sure why that's not working. If you had another GoTech, you could actually rapidly prove whether it was the GoTech itself. 2 wires for a speaker. Yeah, you can do all sorts with it. You can add an internal piezo to make little audio noises like a floppy, but it's not very loud at all. I almost wanted to make a little circuit to make that noise louder, so it does actually sound like a floppy. But that's on the wiki if you wanted to see how to do that. But yeah, I'd probably just, if you've got a few Amigas anyway, I'd probably we got another broken trace there that doesn't look broken. Yeah, I think we have. Yeah, so that one's broke. So if you're looking at that, this is a perfect example where this does not look broken. Oh, and it doesn't now. Or was it this one? Yeah, there you go. So this looks fine, looks fine, looks fine. And then it's broken on the via. So even though it looks fine, that via's missing there, see? So that little bit of missing there, you probably wouldn't notice if we haven't cleared all the crap away. It did work before I fixed it, and GoTech worked when installed internally. There's 2 wires for the speaker. Oh, so you're saying you fix something on a speaker and that stopped the GoTech working? This is going to have to be, I can probably just run a wire internally there. Bridge over, that's what I'll do on this one. Or do you mean you installed the wire on, like for a speaker on the GoTech, and then the GoTech stopped working? Like, are you on about the speaker wires on the GoTech itself? That are near the jump for, oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, again, if you check the wiki on that, that'll tell you if it's not for a speaker. It is and it isn't. It's for a little piezo disc. So if you need one, I've got them, but they're not speakers. If you've got that on, take it off, because it won't work. It'll just load down the GoTech. That looks solid now. I'm probably going to cover this one up now before I forget. Just check it's working. Yeah, it's basically the pin out is just a. Oh, you can't even see that. Yeah, that's on now. It's really hard to see visually, but that's on. Let me just cover that with a little bit of. I'm going to use some green so I can see where it goes if I've got any. I haven't got any. Need some coloured resin sometimes, so I know it's gone on. Yeah, if you put a speaker down on that piezo, it's just going to load down the chip, the microchip of the GoTech. I don't think it'll do damage, but it won't work while it's on probably. So if that's still on, you probably just want to remove that and you might get it working. And yeah, it's a bit weird that it works one way and not the other, but that speaker wires definitely needs to come off if you've got it on. That's not going to move anywhere now. I just wanted to cure that because I might forget that wire's there, and then when we come to solder it down, that'd move and you'd end up with a missing connection. This one needs recovering. That's not the pad underneath. So we know obviously we've got to attach to there, and then leave the wire passing through, so we can solder to that as well. And then I'll probably just attach this where it needs to be. And then when the chip's down, I'll probably solder a wire up onto the leg of the chip on this one. That's nice. Yeah, I've seen the black Amigas. I've got I think I did the 600 up for myself, but I didn't recap it. It was for me. And when you turn it on, it just stinks of fish. So it really needs a recap. I do everybody else's and then didn't bother with my own. So I was just playing Secrets of Monkey Island, which I didn't play on an Amiga. I used to play on the PC though. I used to have the Secrets of Monkey Island on PC. I always thought it was a PC only game, but obviously it was on Amiga and many others. But I used to love that, and I'm sure there was another one. It was like a cop that was a dog, I think it was. And the first level, I think you start in the house, you go down to the car. That's as much as I can remember. I don't know what that game's even called, but that was a really good game. So this one I'll need to be covering with a wire because obviously that's the inner layer. So tack on here, go over. Check he's good as well. He's good. Actually, I think it's called something Sam, you know. I'm sure the name of that game's got Sam in the name. There's like a cop dog, is all I can remember. If one or two pads are ripped, what's the easiest way to fix them? To be honest, if you pretty much this way, to be honest, because you just solder to the closest part that you feel you could solder to. Like, so if you can't solder to thin wire, don't. Vias are normally about as big as you're going to get unless you get back to like a big fat pad. So you'd normally do pretty much this. You'd find the via, and then you'd solder a wire, hang it out, and then when we put the chip down, we'll solder it to it. I've done a video on, I want to say, where is it? I think it's maybe on TikTok. I did a video on, no, it's on YouTube. I did a video on trace repair of a GBA SP USB port. That is probably the perfect one to show you trace repair in general. Yeah, I'm sure I did. I'm sure it's on YouTube. And yeah, that's it. Sam and Max hit the road. That's the one. I'm going to have to play that now, or at least find it. Going to have to pull it up. Let me see if I can find that game. Where's internet gone? Yeah, I can remember it. That's the little rabbit dude as well. I forgot about him. Pull this up over here. Yeah, this dude.
Friends? Friends? We've only gone out together 3 times.
Oh, yeah, I remember this. It's well good. See if I remember right. There's the first level where you go. Yeah, there's the car. I knew there was something to do with the car at the start. Yeah, that's a well good game. Right, what are we doing? There's a trace that runs from left to right under the chip that's broken. You'll have to point out to me somewhere on here. I got distracted by Sam and Max, now I can't remember where we're even at. And this board's upside down, I think, where we were. I was doing... Here was the last thing I think we did. Let me rotate it back around because I'm used to seeing it this way. Zoom in. Right, so we did that, did that one. We've just left that trace hanging out. Oh, is this one maybe on about here? Yep, that's also blown, isn't it? Yeah, so he needs recovering. Yeah, I think we were just about on that, so maybe would have spotted that, maybe wouldn't. In this case again, I'll probably this probably would want the microscope, to be honest. We do this one because it's quite small, but I can probably get it on without a mic. Yeah, it's kind of annoying, that one. Now I'm going to go back to this via over here to make this a bit easier on me to do. It's too close to two pads, so that's going to end up getting awkward to make sure the wire doesn't go missing when we're soldering. And then we will follow this around like so. Oh, that's the UV resin. I was going to say, what's that in the way? So it goes up to this one, goes to this pin here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pins up it goes to. So it's just moving over here. Cutting. Yeah. And then we'll solder to this chip. I've done the clock battery mod and other solder jobs, but I was way over my head on this one. Yeah, and well, to be honest, the actual mod, it depends on your tools. The mod isn't hard to do. In terms of this chip's quite a big and easy chip compared to what can be done. But I think it's one of them. If you just don't have the right tools or the right solder or anything, it's like when I tried to solder the Game Gear with lead-free solder and the wrong temperatures and things. You're just not gonna, you're not gonna have a good time if you haven't got the right equipment or the right stuff. 1, 2, 3. Right, I'm just gonna have to bend this down. I probably should have done this leg first before the veer, so I'm just keeping hold of it with my other finger so we don't pull trace. Otherwise, if we pull the veer, we're in a worse situation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's this dude, and then let's double check. Yep, trace up over. So it's this. This pin here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There. Probably could do with a microscope on this one because I've got no depth perception, but yeah, he's on. Rock solid. So that's that one. And then this one now is actually put on a hold on this side. Move him down. Right, he's just going to fit between there just about. And then I'm going to blob a little bit of UV on that one. Well, actually, it's not moving for now. We'll do the UV after. This chip is definitely going to sit high after all this. Right, so he's recovered again. he's going through. Let's double check. There to chip up there, yep, that to there, to there. Oh, getting the wrong one, that's why. It's going up there. Yep. Yep, and then we check. Oh yeah, we checked that one already. And to there. Yep, all good. So, have we done it? Have we got anything else to recover? Repaired him. He's good, 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 good. No, we're actually done. So that's all. That looks a right mess. That's all the traces repaired. Now we've got to. Yeah, and I've literally just said the same thing. Looks a right mess. We're going to cover that in just blobs of UV to stop the traces moving when we solder the chip on top, and then the BIOS is going to cover all this for us, so you're not going to see all this after. So, where do we need to protect? We basically need to stop these wires moving is the goal. So for that, this is where we want just tiny amount of this resin again. I'm not going to be too worried about this chip sitting high. It's going to, because we've got all these traces underneath. So because there's other ways you can do this to get the chip sitting flush if you really wanted to. Much finer wire and things, basically. But again, that adds cost, and it would not be in any way economical to do it on a Dreamcast. So this is the nice middle ground. Right, so before we cure that, we just need to move all these wires into the position we want them now. So this one wants to be over there. This one wants to be there. That's there. These two kind of got enough movement on that we can move them after. But as long as we know it's like, you know, here and here. And we've got to remember this via isn't anything to do with that. So if you see me going to solder this to here, just tell me not. That is not. That's just a via showing through from the middle layer. Then there's a trace here, or a leg here that does nothing. He's fine. This one is there, so he's in the right position. This one is what? This one's there, that was it. And then I kind of kinked the wire up to indicate it needs to go to that wire, so we'll sort that after. Then we got 2 pads maybe missing. But either way, when the chip's down, we'll see that. That one's fine. Missing trace. That one's fine. That is going to be on the leg when it's down. That's fine. That goes through. That one goes on the leg. Right, everything's in position. I must say this is definitely way too much work for a Dreamcast. Right, so let's cure that. We're committed now. And then it's just putting the chip down and seeing if we've wasted the time or not. I mean, there's a lot of trace damage, and it's eaten through the middle layers, but hopefully none of the middle layers have got any traces running through, because we're not going to be repairing inner traces of a board here. So we have, you can see, got the chip here now ready to go down, and we will pretty much, we'll just solder this pin for pin. Obviously we're not going to hot air this down. So let's see. Right, which way around does this BIOS go? Let's pull up the picture again. Before we sanded it, can't get this thing to center. There we go. Yeah, pull this up over here. Right, so there's the original. We had, by all the traces, so here, all these fat traces are here. So that would mean that's that way, is it? How many of the traces are there? That's that way. Yeah, traces running through, dog legging down. Yeah, so chip this way. And the irony is, this isn't just a BIOS going down. We've also got to do the mod with extra wires after this, so this can get even more complicated. Let me just pull up the wiki on what pins we do, because I can't even remember. So we have reset pin 1 to VCC. So we lift, I presume we lift up pin 1. So I'm just reading my own guide if you're wondering. I'll just pull it up for you. This is the region 3 BIOS mod. It's a 3.3, so we're happy with that. Right, so reset there and right enable. Basically, top 2 pins need wiring. Top 1 goes to VCC, and then right enabled goes to the pin there. So we just need to bend up the top 2 pins on this. So for that, it's pretty simple. I'll just get tweezers and squeeze in, so you can see that leg bent up. Do the same on that side. So that's them legs up out the way. So we'll deal with them last. And then the rest of it just gets soldered down, so that wasn't too complicated. Yeah, if you wanted to hot air this, these won't go anywhere now because we've got this down, but main problem with hot air is this isn't going to sit flush. So a little trick, because this is quite a big chip, is we can just get something hard like, I don't know, Super Mario. First hard piece of surface I've got. We can hide that now, don't need that. And I can just push down and bend the legs down. I'll probably have to rebend, yeah, I'll have to rebend these legs up that I'll probably end up bending. So you can see there now, well down below the chip. So when this sits flat, we could now hot air this down if we wanted, but we're not going to bother with all the work we've done. We will just solder this down pin for pin. So I'm just going to bend them top 2 legs back up now. Right, so that's ready to just solder down. So this shouldn't be too hard at all. Let's just go for that. So we'll tack it in place first. Yeah, I will, again, I should probably use the microscope for this because it's so much easier when you can see what you're doing. Let's just get them tacked on first. And then we'll go, oh yeah, we're miles off over there, so. There we go, that one's tacked in that corner. We'll go down to the other corner, rotate it around, and we will tack this corner down. So get him on there. And that's now the chip solid in. So that's got 2 legs tacked. So before we commit, let's just make sure we know what we're doing now and that nothing's moved. I can see the solder ball here, so I'm hoping whatever work's been done on it hasn't led to random solder blobs everywhere else as well. Right, it's just one last inspection before we commit. This is going to bend up and be soldered to this leg. So we could almost, I think we said we're going to bend like these legs up that are under the ripped one, so that's bent up. I probably, where's my little hooky thing? Stab myself with it. Probably bend that leg up out the way as well. Same with that one, and this one's got to have, and the reason we're bending these legs up is because if that UV fails underneath, we don't want it to be touching on the exposed middle layers. I think it's just easier doing my tweezers, to be honest. That one's up. That one's up. That one's up. That one's up. And then this wants to go back. That one isn't going anywhere, but that leg doesn't touch, and that one's going up. Not that high. There we go. And then this side. I mean, to be honest, the legs are floating anyway in the air. I don't think it's strictly necessary, but no harm getting them clear out the way. That doesn't touch, that one does. And he's back. Where was the one that bent this one? So this one's got to be this leg, but also this trace. That's it. So yeah, just solder this down. Yeah, so nice and easy. Get a flux all the way down. Let's get all the normal legs soldered first. So I'm going to do this actually just under the microscope for the sake of it, just so I can. Okay, I'll leave that on, so I can see what I'm doing properly. It won't quite be as clear for you guys because the depth, but it's better for me. There we go. So you guys haven't got quite as nice a view, but there we go. Let's get this flux to melt so I can see where I'm at. Yeah, this one, on. So you see, it's all about the prep work, making sure everything's aligned and everything's clean. And then this isn't difficult at all then. So that one's on. We'll come back to the wires, remember, so I'm just going to ignore this wire for now. Get everything else soldered on. Ignore that wire. He's a no connect pin, so there's nothing to do with that one. He's no connect, he's the wire, so we'll come back to him. And he is the one we said we were going to attach to that pad there, actually. So let's just do this one before we forget, because that's one that doesn't actually have a wire on and I'll probably forget. So and this is the main power to the chip as well. So what we'll do is we need to attach a wire from this one up to the top pin of the chip as well. So we'll do it at the same time. We'll try and send him out. And that. And to be honest, the pad below this is probably the right pad on this one. So the pad we've covered up below there is probably where this is actually going. But it doesn't really matter for now. So attach that to there. Need to put some flux on this as well. It's dry as shit. Let's just expose this wire. Right. Fresh flux. That. So now, at the same time as doing this, we're going to bring that wire all the way around and up to this top pin here. So that's where it wants to go as part of the region 3 mod. So might as well do that wire at the same time. And then other side now, and then we'll come back to the wires. One of the pins you lifted seems you broke it. Looks very loose when you moved it for a bit. Which pin? Either way, it's not broken if it does. It's very easy to grind inside the epoxy. None of these ones are lifted or loose. But if you let me know which, I can always double check. Right, so this side we will come back to that wire floating. It's kind of the wrong way for me, this is actually. Flux down here. That's a no connect there. That was no connect as well, I believe, the two there. So I think that's all the pins that are actually connected. So now it's just the wires. So if we bend this wire up, this needs to connect to this pin. So you can't really see it on the scope, to be honest, because I just can't basically, but the wire's here. That one restored. This one, same idea, just point them up in the air, and then when the wire's up in the air, I use solder on the tip of the iron to strip the wire. And to be honest, you might be able to, let me see if you can see more if I do. Yeah, you can't really. I was going to say, see if you can see more from this angle while I'm working, but you kind of can't. So let's go back to scope for now. Fourth pin up from pin 22. Pin 22, 1, 2, 3, 4, this one. Rock solid. They've all, I can see under the scope, they're all completely solid. It's probably just if I've like moved fairly easily and, you know, moved it with a bit of force, if you will. It's probably just the strength of me moving something. Now this one I'm gonna, this pin's in the air, so I'm gonna strip the wire in a little kink like that. And then I'm gonna bend it back down to touch the via. So I'm gonna strip the middle of the wire here. Like so. And then I solder that to the leg, like that. So that's now on the leg, and then I've got a piece left floating. Again, you can't really tell with it being such a top-down angle, but I've got to do this to be able to see this work, basically. I can show you after on the, like I can tilt the board around and show you sort of how it's all connected after. And then that isn't touching there, but visibly, probably don't want to see it that close to the pin. So we have this wire now, so that's done. These are just straight up and solder. So those we probably want to, let me just cut these a bit shorter. I can't even see. I was going to cut them shorter, but as soon as you take it away from the scope, I can't see it. There we go. Remember the 3-up had solder blob to the middle of the board. Remember the 3-up had solder blob to the middle of the board. You've soldered the pad that you sanded through to resin. You'd have to let me know on which, I don't know any that I've done that on. There's nothing under here, if you're on about that. There's no solder under there. That pin's in the air. If that's the one you're on about. That's them two. That one goes between. That's a no connect there. This one, and then this one has that pad as well. So this is like a double. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to kind of wrap him over there. And then I can bend this around and down to the board. Then he's no connect, I think 22 was, and he was no connect above. So I think that's it, with the exception of soldering that wire to the top of there to go to the right enable pin, I think. Yeah, that's the one I mean. Yeah, so that's all fine. Right, so that's now everything on, with the exception of this pin now needs to go to one of the pins here. So we'll just do that on this, and then we'll double check, and I'll show you all the work under this camera where you can actually see a bit cleaner. And we can double check we're happy with all the work, and then we'll see if it does work. There's no guarantee because we don't know, obviously, if the repair shop has done anything else, and we've seen floating solder blobs and things, but we can be assured what we've done, we're confident in, and we know. We've definitely checked every trace in this area, and everything's soldered, and you know there's no shorts and all that. Like that's the main thing you want to make sure of, that you're not questioning what you've done on here could be wrong. You want to make sure you're quite happy that the work you've done is good, and then hopefully this will just boot up. That's what pin's this going on now. We have the pin to the left of the dot. So it's this pin here we want to go to. So again, I'll probably just jump on the scope for that one, just for quickness. And it's going to be this pin here. Probably shorten that a little bit because it's a bit long his arm, but I want it to be a little bit neater. There we go, a bit neater. And that's all the work done. Let's just inspect. Where's my little spongy thing go? There. And time to take a look and see what we think. Fully zoomed in, so let's get a bit of 3D on this so you can see, because that was the hardy thing, was I can see the 3D but you guys can't, and a lot of it looks like you think you might be missing. So that leg up in the air, so that's clearly up in the air. That goes over to this pin down here, this bottom one, which again is up in the air. So see how it's not touching. And that then goes to the pin. So if I can get that there, so you can see it goes to this pin and goes to this pad. So that's VCC, and the pad underneath there isn't soldered to, even though that's probably the actual pad. And then we have a simple solder on here, solder on here. This one we forgot to do, so that's why we checked. This one we've got to do. This is a no connect. That's soldered. No connect, soldered. Did we just not do this side? Did I say we've done them? Yeah, we haven't even done this side. So let's check this side and come back to it. We've literally done one side of the wires. So he's on that wire there, which you can see, there's the blue wire. The pad underneath isn't soldered, so get that underneath. You can see there's no connection underneath. Pin soldered. All them are just normal pin solders. This one goes to the leg. So again, trying to get a 3D view for you to see that. You can see there's that leg in the air. And that's it. And the pad underneath isn't soldered to. So very hard to kind of show you the 3D. But that's, again, this one goes to the trace, up to the leg, and then underneath the board. But you can see the original exposed copper we haven't soldered to again, which is the important thing. And then the pin there soldered normal, normal, normal. Isn't connected anyway. That's just the trace that we repaired. That's soldered. Is it? No, we haven't soldered that one. He's soldered. He's soldered. He's a no connect. He's soldered. So we've actually missed this pin here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pin 6 needs solder. He's a no connect, so he's just floating, which is what we want. Like, we could lift that pin up just so he's physically floating, but he's a no connect anyway. Because just literally there's nothing there, doesn't go anywhere. And on the pinouts, I can tell you what that is on the pinouts. Pin 22, it's Q11, but it doesn't go anywhere. If it does, there's no trace there. So yeah, Q11 won't be connected. So let's just now blob solder on that 6th pin, or whichever pin it was. I can see it here anyway. And then let's do the wires the other side. Where is he? This one. So we haven't done that one. There we go. You solder pin 3 to the middle layer. Why is pin 3 the middle layer? Let's have a look. No, I think pin 3 is the middle layer. Pin 3 is the pin it should be. You're on about this pin here. That wasn't. It's pin 2, and that's pin 2 isn't connected to the middle layer. You can see that's not soldered. But pin 3 is pin 3, as far as I can remember. I can look at the customer's solder. Yeah, no, that isn't a middle layer. That is literally a pin. Let me see if there's another picture of it before, just to be sure. Oh, close the email down. No, I'm pretty sure that is just a trace. If anyone wants to jump back on the stream to double check, but that is literally just, there is no wire there. It's pin 2. That's just going to the trace that's already there. I don't think that was down. I can probably pull up my own stream, can't I? Anyway, rewind it a sec. Let's just double check that. Go backwards to it. 1, 2, 3 now. It's just I can show you a screenshot of it. Oop. Oh, I've done that. I've opened pictures up. Oh, well. I'm used to Mac shortcuts now. I'm screwed. I'll just show you the screen anyway. So you can see on stream there. Pin 3 is... Oh, and my big forehead's in the way on this one. Go back there. Pull it full screen. And that is now, you're watching a playback of me there, are you? Yes, there you go. You can see pin 1, 2, 3. 3 is there. This one, it's just a trace. So yeah, pin 3 is meant to be soldered. It's right there going to a trace. So I'm not sure what you've looked up, but that's definitely right. So now let's do the wires this side. Well, you're debating whatever it is you think's not right there, but yeah, it's literally soldered correctly and soldered to the right place. Right, so we just got this one needs to come up here. So I'll lift them up in the air. Yeah, this is a Dreamcast. I think the customer's actually in the chat still. Basically, looks like a region 3 mod gone wrong, basically. So we're just doing a holy hell of a trace repair, just because it makes good content. Really, I wouldn't normally entertain this level of trace repair on a board worth 80 quid, but we're doing it on this one. So that's fine there. Right, this one this is the one that I said I was going to attach an extra wire to here, because there's the original inner layer sitting right here that we don't want to solder to. So what I'm going to do is lift this up. If I could get my tool underneath. Lift this trace up here, or this pin up rather, and I'm going to attach a wire from here down to here, just to be safe that we're definitely not touching the... Get this in focus, and this camera's slightly out of focus. Wow, really shallow depth of field. Yeah, I just don't want to risk soldering to the inner layer of that one. Yeah, pin 3 up from the white. Yeah, I was going to say this. Do you still think we've done something wrong on the one with pin 3 on the white connector side you're on about? Because we haven't soldered the other side of the board yet. I presume you're on about this pin here that's floating, pin 3. That doesn't go anywhere. Pin 3 this side is again definitely connected down there, but if you think it isn't, just let me know. We can always double check. So we're going to have a wire on here. Well, to be honest, I'm going to strip that wire back a bit more first, because it's going to just come off the pad if we don't strip it further. It needs to be really exposed as far as we need it before we solder this one down. So we're going to tack him on there. And now I can bend him down, tack him on there. And that's how we do that awkward one. Be a shame if we've done all this work and it still doesn't work for the customer, because this is it's a lot of work. Alright, so he's on, he's soldered, let's double check. Yeah, he's soldered, he's a no connect, he's connected. He's a no connect again. And then we have this wire now, which is the one that we've got to attach to the actual pad here, and then we've got to attach it back to this trace. He's soldered, and this one is floating but soldered. So this is the last wire. And then we are actually done, unlike the last time that I thought we were done and we weren't. Pin 4, besides the 22, looks like it's broke when you bent it. Yeah, multiple people have said that, but it isn't. Like literally, pin 4 here, rock solid. Like here's where it connects to the base. And that's why my tweezers don't grab the bent. But yeah, no, that pin is absolutely connected. It probably on stream it must have looked like I'd bent something there, but no, that pin is just completely rock. It's not weak, and even if it was, you can just grind the resin down here and solder inside. There's a big fat pad in there we could solder to if we had to, but no, it's definitely connected. You can tell it's not even fragile. It's not like not even remotely weak, basically. Right, so this one wants to be up in the air here, and then we'll strip the enamel coating. So we'll go to the pad. Like so, and then this will go down. So now we need to go to this trace. Of course, it's right by here, so this one's going to be fun. Probably zoom in more. Nice and close. I've got my random Twitch still playing on the other screen. Let me close that down. There we go. Bum, bum, bum. Right, so we need to first see if we can tin some better light on. There we go. First see if we can tin this trace, because that's what we're going to be tacking down to. Also, I've moved the light into the way of where I need to get my iron. Right, so yeah, just about. Obviously, it's a fine trace, so you're not going to get much more solder on that, but that's exposed. This then, the wire now. Before we do this, you want to bend it in position. So it's going to be about there. Let's cut him short. trim him off there. And now we need to lift him up and strip him before we put him down. So it's all just about the prep work when you're attaching to fine wires. Yeah, it definitely isn't cracked at the base. I mean, if you really want me to, I could grind the chip down and show you continuity inside the chip, but me being the one with the 3D vision, I can tell you it's connected. So we'll see. Right, so we've got flux on that. The wire's pre-stripped. Fresh. What keeps getting in the way of this iron? Keep trying to do something with this iron, and there you go. Right, so plenty of solder, plenty of flux. Push the wire down onto the trace, and now all we have to do is stay there and touch on. And there you go, rock solid. So that's on. Right, I'll just mute the mic a sec. But I'm still live. You'll see me just talking to myself, but I'm obviously just on the phone. Right, we're back. Yeah, so basically we should be good to go now. So we can have one last little look at this close up. Because obviously the last one, I forgot to solder some pads when we looked at this side. So we have this one, which is floating in the air, which we probably need to pull up. So yeah, you can see it's really hard to get like a 3D visual for you this close up. So there's the pin floating there, and then we have all them are normal, so pretty easy. This blue wire then, that one's going to the chip, which goes under, and then we have this other blue wire that attaches to that pin. It just kind of looks, it's hard to show you that it's not touching, but again, very easy to see with your own eyes, but that blue wire isn't touching the other blue wire, basically. It's just very hard to kind of show you, but it definitely isn't. Those two pins are normal. That one is the tricky one. So, where's me tweezers? So this one is a wire that's attached to this pin and then attached to this trace, but we're up in the air so that you see that blue wire running underneath. That blue wire isn't touching the inner layer underneath there. It's completely free of it. And it's also then the second wires in the air on this pin going to the same pad. So that's that one. That is soldered. We have these two which are no connects. So this one here and this one here are no connects. He's connected. He's connected floating in the air, this wire here, because he restores down to this trace. And this wire then goes under the chip to where it originally did. So that's rejoined without, again, attaching to the inner layer. That one's connected, and this one's the floating 5-volt pin or 3.3-volt pin. So they're all definitely on. Obviously, you've got to appreciate how many wires we've repaired here, so you might not be able to easily see or follow. This wire is the one that goes over to this port so that the GD-ROM can enable and disable this flash write protect in order to write a new BIOS, basically. So that's it. That was definitely not worth the time, basically. So, again, like I say, I wouldn't attempt this normally, just I thought it made good content. People, obviously, it's the most viewers we've had on YouTube, for example. in a while. I think you guys just like to see that kind of video. So let's see if this powers up or whether we're disappointed, because like I say, it could be anything with how much work it's had done in 2 different places. Well, this will be the 3rd place now coming to us. But let's see if we have any luck on this. Hopefully we do. It'd be nice to see this thing working. So, what do we have? We have a drive. I don't think we need the disk drive, if I remember rightly, for it to boot. We have a Pico power supply, a knock to a fan. So this is all the customer stuff. This won't boot if the fan isn't connected right and spinning, so we need that up. You can disable, and I think I'm the one that, well, definitely I'm the one that discovered this, but if you want to remove IC601 off the back, you can then connect it without this front board, because IC601 turns the reset line on if it doesn't detect fan pulses, basically. So you need the fan for this to work. It's there. We've got the Pico power supply, which we could use a clean power instead of this, but I'll use the customer stuff for now. So that'll be on there. We got the power supply thing to this Pico, whatever it is. Or has the customer not sent it? Little power brick. No.
Don't think so.
Just like it'd be a power brick on it. Like a DC jack. I think we'll have to use a clean power then, so get that off. What was it you were doing, GameCube? You know, this is a Dreamcast, so basically a customer or a repair shop or both have tried to do a BIOS mod and ripped a shit ton of traces, as well as gone to the inner layer of the board. So we've done, I think that's got the wrong connector on, that's a prototype. We've done a load of trace repair, basically, to see if we can get this working. There we go, it's the right connector. So let's see first if we can get power off the keyboard. Right, so just make sure we've got good power on here. NTSC console, yeah, no problem. So we'll just be looking for BIOS boot for now. Yep, 12 volts, 5 volts, 3.3. Right, I've got all the voltages we need. So if you boot up the Dreamcast without the GD-ROM, which I'll probably do first, it'll just wait a while, and then you'll get a static splash screen as opposed to animation. And then it eliminates any issues with the drive as well. So we'll start with that. We'll just basically, you can boot this like this then. So that goes on there. And now we need some way to visualize it. Goku for good luck. No, it isn't hard to get a board. It's just make good content, basically. Like I said, I definitely wouldn't have done this on, well, a Dreamcast in general. Goku's going to sit there. Let's unhook him. Yeah, he can stand there. There we go. You stay upright. Face the camera. You're harder to even fix in the Dreamcast. There we go. Right. So that's on, that's in. Let's see. Do we get anything at all? Now, bear in mind, without the GD-ROM, this would take a few seconds to kick in. We've got it connected there. No, so nothing on that. Let's maybe try with the GD-ROM. And then, to be honest, did we see fan spin as well? Yeah, we got fan spin. And then we'll also probably take off IC601 after this, just in case. This connector damaged as well. No? Let's see. And we can also do this. Yeah, so this isn't responding, which is a sign. Obviously, nothing's booting if this isn't responding. But 5-volt rail is shorted. If we look, or yeah, we've got a 5-volt rail short here. So if you look on the clean power, oh, no, we haven't. So maybe just something was touching. Right, there's no short on that now. Fan is spinning. Goku's not very lucky. And let's try this connected again. I don't like how this drive feels. Doesn't feel. This doesn't feel like it's going in right, to be honest. Yeah, it's in, just doesn't feel it. Right, and so keep that in place, fan on. Right, so now it's not shorted on there. There we go, we've got drive spin. So that's something. But no AV. So is this working? Turn that off. Turn that on. Let's maybe tell you what. Let's put the CRT on in case this capture card's not capturing, because that's spinning, which it wouldn't necessarily always run independently. So that's on there. There's nothing on AV. Nothing on CRT. Do we go for a game boot maybe? Because we could have further issues other than that. I'm half tempted to try boot again to see if you kind of get the disc spin and the visuals and maybe audio. We'll see. NTSC. Now it's got region free BIOS, so it'll load anything now if it works. So let's just try this. So we'll know from if this tries to load and spin up and things. This is loading. Sure, that's tried to load then. Yeah, maybe another AV port. See, because that could be fair load. Let's try another game. Or, yeah, override it. If not, I'll try another AV, just to be sure it's not that. Let's try Scott. Probably just see if we can get some visual first, to be honest, without the driving. Let's just do Scott on the OSSC. Oh yeah, you're not going to get any. You're not going to get any visual when you haven't plugged in the HDMI cable, but it's not on the CRT either. So let me just ignore that phone. I won't get that for now. I haven't even got the HDMI plugged into that. That's just saying nothing, which is strange because why is that even showing anything? Why is that overlay showing something when? That's all of them on. Yeah, I didn't have the HDMI capture card even plugged into that, which is strange. But the fact we don't get it on the CRT as well is probably the fact it doesn't even have that, but it's... Yeah, so see now it's actually plugged... Oh, there you go. Plug in the HDMI cable. So, yeah, there you go. Failed at the simplest stage. Plugging in the fucking HDMI cable. All the complicated work. And then, oh yeah, don't forget to plug in the actual capture card, basically. Right, so obviously this will hang and then get to the menu. Wow, look at them. I definitely needed a facelift or better lighting. This should, I think, without the disk drive, I think it hangs at this menu, then boots. But with it being a region-free BIOS, not so sure. So let's just plug in the drive. And like I said, I'm not really... In fact, before the drive, I'm going to plug in... Actually, no. GDMUs have issues with Japanese cake, I think. I'm more curious to why... Oh, I know why. I've got a capture card that... see, so that... Yeah, it doesn't like this disk drive. They've got an issue with the disk drive, potentially, because that should be animated now and going... Blah, 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 which is not the Dreamcast sound, but that should be now showing the Dreamcast animation, and instead it's going to time out and show the static. Don't do the Asian eyes thing. That's not what I was meant to be doing. Yes, that's either going to boot static and take a while, or we might have a bad cable. But let's try the GD-ROM, but I know the GD-ROM, not the GD-ROM, the GDMUs, I know have issues with Japanese cake BIOS. But let's see. This goes this way. We don't need an do we need an SD card? Yes, we do, don't we? I think GDMU, I think, needs the SD card to have the GDMU menu. I'm pretty sure, but let's just see. Turn this on, see what happens. But I think we need an SD card for that as well. Yeah, and that so many things at question at the minute. That, the connector. See now, yeah, not that. So let's turn that off, take that off, turn that on. Does that go black screen? If so, I might try the other cable because I'm still in question with this cable. I don't like the composite. Let's go to the OSSC. Let's just see what RGB is telling us. Because something about this retro scaler and this capture card I'm not overly happy with. Let's go to... I like the OSSC because even if the capture isn't working, you can see on the screen of the OSSC that tells you, like, you know if something's happening, basically. So let's do this. Unplug that. Plug this in. Press on that, turn on. No, so that's got nothing on, and this could be a composite. I don't even know what cable this is. I just grabbed it out. He's plugged in. So what I might do as well is I might remove IC601 just to prevent it from keeping things in reset in case it doesn't like that cable. Yeah, that's booting there, but nothing on that. So something's definitely, we've seen boot once, so we know something's alive. But yeah, there you go. It's locked on now. So I think it's I think the GD ROM side it doesn't like. And then if we wait for this, this should show the logo again, which is, if it's doing this, it's saying basically it's trying to read the GD ROM and failing. So let's just see. Or, like I say, it could be this fan. I'm going to remove IC601 just to be sure, so we're not doubting whether it's that. It's the quickest thing to do. Because this thing can literally hold the entire system and reset randomly based on the fan and the fact it's got a Noctua fan in. We don't want to take that risk. See what we get. Ooh, hot is what we get. So now we don't need the front board in, but we'll leave him in anyway. We will turn that on. And now we know that can't be keeping the system in reset. So the fan or the front board was keeping it in reset. And this is just a cable that clearly something wrong with the... This is probably like... an RGB cable for a PAL or something. So let's go back to composite. Noctua fans, if you ask Zach, yeah, he'll tell you don't bother ever installing them. They just don't fit the shit for fitting. These things don't fit in the case. They don't add much airflow. The only thing is they are quieter, but I still think we need a better solution than the current ones, which is just this thing, fitting this in and then specially custom shells. It's a load of shit, basically, so... I know it's noisy with, you know, with the original fan, but I think we need to make a better solution, basically. Right, let's go back to composite, and then I presume this will all boot, which does mean this Noctua fan's actually not working, or this ribbon at the front or the front board isn't passing through the pulse. So that's why it was randomly resetting the console as well, basically. So again, that's why I always remove IC601 if you get any issues whatsoever with boot. Just remove it. So now I'd presume this is going to boot up straight away. There you go. And that should be animating. So yeah, I think I'm guessing, unless it's just a custom animation, I don't know, that should have animated. But yeah, we're up and running anyway. Yeah, it's running now, so all sorted. Okay. So I've probably lost about 50 quid in labour, but we've got the console working. And this is, what is this? Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Oh, your laser's not the best. Struggling. If not, we'll try Resident Evil. Ah, yeah, good point. Yeah, the animation won't set without the clock and there's no battery in. Yeah, that one's struggling. Yeah, so no clock battery, I think, will cause the no animation as well. So let's give this a go. Power off, power on. Just going to boot straight to game. Might have power cycled that too quick, to be honest. Probably why we didn't see the boot up. Or could be that I'm holding this disk drive floating as well. It's not really in the best position to be booting, is it? Yeah, so it probably needs properly assembling, and maybe I think I might have another disk drive. We've been building drives. Yeah, haven't we? Yeah. Let's see what happens with that. I don't think it can boot without an SD card on this, but we'll see. Yeah, so you can't boot without that. But we've seen the system obviously booting when you keep everything in the right spot, so the BIOS is fine, which is the main thing we wanted to do. I think the customer probably just needs a either mod it for, yeah, it's just that disk drive connector flopping around needs to be, it's probably why the game didn't load. You know, holding this floating instead of screwing it in correctly is not exactly helping things. And yeah, it's struggling to load the game. So let's see if we can get one game boot. So at least we know it's like fully running, if you will. Yeah, that's failed to even read that one. But obviously the fact we've seen this, it might boot. Yeah, it probably just needs assembling, like you say, to boot. It's just sitting down. It's booting anyway, so. Let's turn it off once more. I mean, the fact that it like randomly goes to black screen, which is when it doesn't detect the, oh, and there you go, randomly animates now. So yeah, it's just needs assembly. It's obviously just not quite making the right contact with the disk drive, so then it thinks the disk drive isn't in, and then that's where you gain your issues. So yeah, this will probably load now if I keep it just at the right spot. Or not. And like I say, it didn't feel really connected anyway. The connector was like, didn't feel good. So it just needs, I think it needs assembly. Yeah, taking way too long. Let's see. One more. Yeah, it's like literally lifting off. It's not even, just doesn't feel secure at all. It definitely needs being put in the exact right position for this to boot up. Let's see if I can hold it properly. See, and then it's done that again with that animation, so it hasn't detected the drive again, holding it there. But then it reads, so I don't know. See, I've only just chucked all my drives away, and I don't have a GDMU SD card. Otherwise, that would have been a nice test. Yeah, taking too long. Maybe it just wants to play Crazy Taxi. Maybe that's its problem. Why does that sound clicky? See, and then that, yeah, it's definitely just that connector because it's not even detecting that it's in there. Yeah, so. You know what, I wonder if there has been, obviously, yeah, I think that is the problem. I was going to say there has been other people working on this, so we should really check the connector. And then disconnect power a minute, disconnect that, because we don't need it. Unless my eyes are deceiving me. Do you see what I see? Does anybody else see what I see? Little solder blob. So I've seen that in a few places. So we saw one over by this before as well, the main graphics chip, I believe it was, or over here we saw solder balls. So that's what I said I hope we don't see, is like random solder balls, which don't tell me that's another one there. Yes, it is. So whoever's been on this last is, oh yeah, great, solder balls everywhere. So this might need a dishwasher as well. So there's probably, we could be dealing with, you know, a couple of solder blobs all over the place as well. Another fun thing from when you haven't worked on it from the start. But let's see if just that solder blob was the only problem. And if not, I'm confident the BIOS is booting. That is literally, that's all the BIOS part does. So looks like what we've done is fine. The fan is bypassed completely with the removing the IC601. I did a whole figuring out on it, and I'm pretty sure I wrote on the wiki all about it and what it does. So all the fan stuff is completely irrelevant. We haven't even got it plugged in now, and you'll see this on boot. That's why I wanted to figure out what it did. Oh, wrong screen. Because, well, let's leave it exactly where it is. See if it was nothing to do with that. No, so we're still not getting the animation, which I'm pretty sure we should. So, but we'll see. If not, like I say, dishwasher it, build it up tomorrow and see. But like I say, good news is the BIOS thing we were like doing, this is loading, that is the BIOS's job. So we know there's no issue with the work we've done, which is the important thing. And unfortunately, that's pretty much what the customers paid for up to now anyway, because obviously we've gone way over time and budget on this one just to do it. But yeah, this isn't going to load. I don't think we need either another drive, which I don't have anywhere. Oh, actually, have I got one in there maybe? Because if I had a spare drive, we could try another one in there. Oh, I've got one. Yay. So we can at least try one more drive. And it's the right one. Just to see if it is as simple as the customer's drive. Because it doesn't feel like it connects right either. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the no animation, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that should animate. But like I say, I know there's something with the battery where it might not. Yeah, this isn't even don't think this laser's fucked, that's why it's in the cupboard. Yeah, it's not even attempted. I mean, the fact that loads and fails is in one way good because it shows a difference in behavior to the customer's drive. So that's a sign that, and that's like, yeah, stops it loading there. That's a sign it is lightly as simple as the drive. The fact we got 2 drives with 2 different behaviors. Yeah, this thing isn't even this thing just like spins up and fails. This is definitely a dud drive. That's why it's in the drawer. I've got a GDMU. I'm just too lazy to. Oh, sorry, we've come this far. I want food. I just need to make an SD card for this, and then we can bypass that. But I do know that the Japanese cake doesn't like the GDMUs. I know that from experience. So that's why I've got a feeling the GDMU might not boot anyway. Right, let's do this. Games, no, engineering, Dreamcast, GDMU. I've got to format the card as well. Format. FAT32 format. Good. I'm gonna have to copy one game on as well, aren't I? Gonna have to be Crazy Taxi. Engineers, Dreamcast, GDMU, firmware, card manager. I mean, I could put region change disk on, to be honest, that's quicker. Can't be bothered. Wait around. Let's just chuck a region change disk on anything that shows it works. D drive, add a game, add that. Save menu not selected, open, save. Guessing didn't work. Yeah, all works. It's all booting, no issues with the BIOS we've done. So you can turn that on. And Dreamcast will boot fine. It's either the customer's disk drive now is the problem, which, to be honest, I think the disk drive's loading as well. The fact that that takes longer to boot without the disk drive, which is what would happen if it doesn't detect it. So the fact that when we plug in the disk drive, it boots quicker is a sign it is just the drive, I'd say. And the customer's drive definitely doesn't sit in as easy as mine. So that one then should boot to the Dreamcast pretty much straight away. We've got the GDMU, and of course it's now black screening for no reason. Let's try with the GDMU now. So this has just got one thing on. See, that fits in a lot more secure, but like I say, I'm pretty sure these have issues with the Japanese cake BIOS is the problem. And we've also got, there's a solder blob over there as well. That's not detecting the drive, so it's definitely something to do with the drive side. Because this slow boot is when it doesn't detect the drive, basically. So let's do that. Give that a clean. And then let's just do the blob on here. Which ensures it's always recognizing the SD card. And yeah, it's not attempting to load off the GDMU. It's like literally one orange light and then it doesn't do anything, so it's not even attempting to load off that. Connector on that board looks loose. Like this connector. No, it's soldered in solid. No, it looks solid. I think the strange change in behaviour though from it like sitting there, and the fact we've had like the animation once is kind of telling us something, because something's not consistent. You know, it shouldn't be inconsistent and like, you know, turning it around like that and then it's failing. It's like, but then again, I suppose I was flopping the disk drive around in midair, and then yeah, see there. Could also be this this power plug I'm using, this clean power. What do you do to make the Japanese cake work? See this, yeah, could be a few things. You tend to use an earlier version, basically, if you want to get it working. Because there's just compatibility issues with the latest one. Let's try another random clean power. This isn't actually an older version. This is a worse version, but let's just see. See if this changes things. Because change is probably good. Let's try again. They're literally dishwasher, like the dishwasher in your kitchen. Go in, chuck it in, wash it, bring it out, spray it with IPA, but you'll find it squeaky clean without that. And that's it. Literally dishwasher, works perfect. The board will be as clean as it's like way cleaner than an ultrasonic cleaner. Yeah, so that's not loading that. Let's try Crazy Taxi now. But like I said, I'm pretty sure the problem left on this board's got nothing to do with the BIOS now. And I think maybe without IC601 on, I don't think you can fast power cycle, is my guess. Or it's just the quirks of this board that just seem to be completely random as it is. So see that, just power cycling and random. Yeah, so that black screen, this would boot up to the screen, so it's definitely not really liking the drives. I reckon the drives are the main remaining issue there. Maybe this connector is a little bit shit. No, I've never seen any damage on a board from the dishwasher whatsoever. Yeah, this, like I said, I doubt we'll get it booting from GDMU just because compatibility issues, but it'd be nice if we could. Let's try another one. I just want to see one game load, but ooh. So do we have a bad? I know my drive's probably bad. This is in the cupboards. This could be bad. Customer's drive fails to load. So is this going to boot? But like I said, the problem is with GDMUs, I'm sure this is a, like I say, compatibility issue with the Japanese. So we kind of probably we can't see this. Basically, is probably the problem. Yeah, what a shame. Okay, one thing I'll try is I'm just going to quickly send the wire that lets the GD-ROM control the write enable. I'm just going to send that to ground for now, just so the GD-ROM can't interfere with the BIOS. One last check, I guess. Right, so that doesn't want to go to ground, it wants to go to 5 volts then, I'd say. Yes, that probably wants to go to 5 volts then, not ground. Or 3 volts rather. I want to go to this one. There we are. Yes, that's now just disabling the ability to change the BIOS. So now let's put this back on. And then I think we'll call it a day for now, if not, because we've obviously got the BIOS booting. And I think it'll be just the customer's drive, to be honest, but I don't have any, don't have the parts lying around to do a full Dreamcast build at the minute. Yeah, so that I'm pretty sure, like I say, is going to be the issue with that. Let's try the drive one more time. But yeah, this definitely doesn't feel like when you connect the customer's drive, it doesn't feel right going in. It's just like loose and something isn't right with the fitment in my eyes. It doesn't feel right. Let's give that a go. And the fact we don't get the boot up animation. Clearly we should get the boot up animation, you see. So that's another telltale sign. The fact we get the boot animation every time with this shows that it's detecting this as a drive. And it's not detecting this as a drive most of the time. That's why it's this intermittent. Whereas if we now connect this up, if this shows the boot animation again, that's pretty much showing stable boot. Yeah, so it's booting every time with the GDMU, which unfortunately, like I say, isn't compatible, I don't think, with the Japanese BIOS. So once more to prove it definitely boots stable. Yeah, so the BIOS is fully working. We've just got a disk drive issue for sure. So I'm sure if I had a working disk drive, then we could see this boot. And we almost did. We've seen a few of these drives try to load, but obviously the fact that it's not animating on boot shows it's not properly loading the drives, is it, basically? I don't think there's a damaged pin anywhere because it's booting off. The fact it's booting off this shows it's working, but this won't load. Like I say, I've done it multiple times. Japanese BIOS doesn't load GDMU. They're not compatible with each other, at least the version we use anyway. And the intermittent boot when you use a GDMU shows that. I mean, one other thing I can do is try another USB plug completely. Let's get brand new plug out, just in case the one I'm using under my desk for some reason isn't working with it. But I'd still say we've had a success. The main thing we wanted to do was get the BIOS working, and the BIOS is 100% working. So we know the fact that it loads up, the BIOS loads completely at the start into memory. So if there was a problem with the BIOS, you wouldn't get into it, basically. If you see that loading, it is definitely working. So we know, we know the work that's been done is fine. And this is just something else, basically. Brand new USB, why not? So everything new. New clean power, new power plug, new USB cable, new GDMU. So this has had everything possible to give it the best chance of booting. Yeah, we've seen it boot with the customer's drive once once with the animation at some point. Basically, that's it. Yeah, thanks for joining. I'll see you in a bit. I'll be going in 2 seconds anyway, because I'm quite happy we fixed it to, obviously, where we can. Now, what they might have is an issue on they might have an issue on the 12 volt side of the circuit where the GDMUs use the 12 volts and the GD ROMs, these things use the 12 volts. and the GD-ROMs don't, so they could have an issue on the 12-volt side of the circuit. But yeah, we won't get this to boot into Sega with this having the custom BIOS on. Let's just see. I think the closest we got was the like it was booting just with a flat screen, but you know, like Dreamcast logo static, and then it attempt to load. That was like the closest we've got. It seems like it's worse. It seems like it's worse now than it was before with the connectors, but yes, that's just blind reading out without doing anything. So that's not being controlled right by the motherboard. Like I say, a wash and an assembly might get this working. We might be just messing around for no reason. It probably just needs to be properly cleaned and assembled. But the good way to know it's actually loading is obviously the fact that we can, well, we've seen it go into the BIOS multiple times, and we see the very consistent boot with this, basically. So we know it's booting, because this will get us booting up to Sega every time we plug this in so far. So you do that, and that gets us loading. Put the SD card in probably. Turn off, turn on. And in fact, you know what? This front board does actually stop it loading even without the IC601. So take that out. Just as we said, we've got consistency. We've now not got consistency. Yeah, consistency's now gone out the window. Yeah, did we spray this with IPA just before we boot it? Because that would indicate potentially, again, maybe a solder ball rolling around on this board. Yeah, it's completely stopped behaving the same again, hasn't it? I think we just need to clear it of all crap on the board in the dishwasher, and then build it up properly. I think that's the answer. No power light on the joystick port. Yep, got one there. So it's in. But yeah, we've gone to complete random, no visual boot since plugging this back in. What we might just need to do is, because we don't have IC601 on, the system's not in reset. We might just need to leave it long enough to reset, or we might need to just short out all of the power rails to make sure it's fully turned off, and then plug this back in. Nope, so just completely stopped booting. So what do we make of that? Like I say, I think it's got to be clean. There's obviously must be stuff floating around on this board still. Oh no, ignore me. The wire I just tacked on to check if it was the GD-ROM interfering's come off. The one I just quickly tacked on. That's why we're not getting boot now. Let's put this back on and try once more. So I disconnected the... there's a wire you can connect to the GD-ROM down here, and what it does is it allows you to override the BIOS, flash a new BIOS. And just to be sure it wasn't that interfering, I wired it back to 3.3 volts, but the wire pinged off. So now we'll get back to consistent boot, which just do it once more so we know. If we connect this GD MU up, this will boot every time with the animation, presumably. Oh, actually, let's unplug this front board because that was causing us issues. So this would boot before. Yeah, wicked. No, that doesn't. That can't be coincidence because we just had that wire. Oh yeah, no, because I've wired it wrong again. I'll get there in a second. The wire that come loose was not that wire. This one is the one that should go back over. Geez, I will get there in a minute. That's because I did a quick tack of a wire. To test something and didn't do it under the scope. Right, so now we're back to where we started. So this is the behavior we have. We plug this in, we'll get boot up animation. Or now we haven't got boot up animation again, but we've got the boot up. Yeah, so we definitely have some major randomness on the board in terms of behavior. So let's put the wire that came loose back to where I had it, which is to bypass the GDMU. So this is exactly where we had it before. And now do we get back to that? No. So just, I don't know. I think it needs a good clean first, and then if not, there's probably going to be almost seeming like maybe a bad trace somewhere because we're getting inconsistent behavior. We've seen it boot with animations, we've seen it boot without, we've seen it get to Sega and then stop. But honestly, my gut feeling would be this connector, because it's... But we were getting every single time booting with this before, and now we're not. So something's changed just from plugging and replugging this, which shouldn't do really. We shouldn't get change in behavior. And like, it's been a while since we've even seen it boot, to be honest, since then. So quickly check there's no wires loose. Solid, solid, solid. That's bypassing that. That's on there. No, let me just measure voltage. Just to be sure the BIOS is getting the voltage. And chip. Yep, so the BIOS has got voltage. The 3.3 stable, the 5 stable, the 12 stable. Yes, there's no issues with power. The BIOS is all sound. So I wonder what's dealing with our intermittent boot. Let's turn this off and on. See, nothing really changed between like the consistent working and not, if you know what I mean. Nothing at all changed. So I think we are definitely dealing with like probably solder blobs and things from the previous work that was done. Yeah, the disk drive can definitely cause black screens. But the way you'd test it without the disk drive, there's more solder down here again. So yeah, this definitely needs cleaning and inspecting. If you look down here, and this is obviously nothing we've done, this is just from the previous job, but you've got another ball of solder there, see that? Blob of solder sitting in between the pins. This has all got, yeah, look, all the disk drives got blobs of solder on. Somebody's tried to reflow all this for flux. So yeah, absolutely, definitely going to cause an issue. So what I'll do is I'll dishwasher this, like I keep saying, clean it up, and then on the next stream I'll let you know if it works. If it does, I'll probably still keep it here so you can see it working. But I'd say the fact I've just found another blob of solder is like pretty much a big red flag that this has got, you know, potential bridges from previous work. So it definitely needs a heavy clean first to get this thing consistent. Yeah, so we're getting nowhere here now. We're just spraying bottles of IPA and going around in circles. But we can see the problems. We've got a definite problem with solder balls from the previous job floating around on here. So we need to fix that really before we do anything else, because that is absolutely a cause for no boot, because the GD-ROM connects to a major part of the system that can prevent it booting, basically the data and address pins. So yeah, kind of a win in one way, because we've definitely got the BIOS working, I'd say, based on what we saw, but didn't quite get a game load, and then it's kind of all started. Like, we literally haven't seen this thing boot now for a short while, which is a shame. To be honest, I'm almost doubting the AV port as well, because wiggling that's making the CRT flicker. But yeah, it's a shame, because that was a lot of work for not see a game load and stuff. Yeah, so I think that's where we're going to have to leave it for now. Like I say, I'll give it a clean, assemble it anyway, because that's pretty much like that's what the customer's paid for so far, pretty much, and we wouldn't take it much further with how much labour it's already had. But yeah, kind of a shame, because we've done all the hard work, and now it's just failing on whatever it's failing on. I might figure it out after the clean, and we'd know even if you didn't see anything on AV. If this kind of starts loading and changing speed and stuff, then you'd know potentially the game's loading and you've got an AV issue as well as just the game load. But yeah, I do suspect there's like a solder ball that's rolled somewhere, or another trace. But it's something minor, I think. I don't think there's like much wrong left with it, basically. That's just mad how literally nothing changed between the very consistent booting. Yeah, we're just not getting anything on screen now, like at all. And yet we had a super consistent boot with this, at least to the Dreamcast animation. So yeah, kind of a shame. But it isn't, like I say, it's made good content and you guys have seen all the work done and that we know it's kind of working, but I think it definitely needs the cleanup first with all them. We've literally, from just glancing around, we've spotted so many little blobs of solder and we're like, yeah, that needs clearing. Then we move that one, then we spot another blob of solder. You know, I mean, there's all flux in there that somebody's had a go at. We found the one solder ball in there before that there isn't now, but we did find one in there. The only place we know isn't bad is the place we've worked that's nice and solid. I wonder if that as well. Oh, they're just caps. They wouldn't matter much. Yeah, I don't think there's anything screaming out at me. Is that another solder blob? I think it is, you know. Where are we? So, is that yet another solder blob? Yeah, it is. So this board is genuinely riddled with solder balls. So yeah, I need to stop. Just need to stop messing with it and trying to get to boot when there's clearly so much solder flying around on this board. Plug this in. If this doesn't load, we'll call it a day for now. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that content, and I'm sure we'll maybe get this working. But if not, clear it up, bath it, maybe hot air reflow, and that would be it. I'd like to get it working for the customer, but there's got to be a limit to how much work this has had done, and somebody else has already worked on it, and you know, there's clearly shit all over this board, basically. Yeah, it's getting us nowhere. We've definitely hit a no boot situation from some part of it. Swap back to this clean power just for the sakes. One last boot. Oh, I think that's booted. See, now that the LEDs on there flickered like a boot. So you can kind of tell from these LEDs. The triple flash is normally that's booted, if you know what I mean. That's literally should show up. Are we just dealing with another stupid composite issue again? No, so I don't think it's that. Okay, one last vain hope. Plug the random strange coloured skirt in, and then definitely calling it a day. Because this is RGB, so this is a different video out as well. We know it's not quite right visually, but something. Yeah, so it's getting sync signal every time, but sticking at the no boot. I mean, there's the other thing as well, which you'd hope it wasn't, but you can't rule out that these BIOS chips sometimes lose the programming. If it's been wired to this GD-ROM and it fails, and then it opens up the read-write pin, it could have rewrote this chip, which means we'd have to swap the chip out. We probably should wire this to 5 volts to stop it being written to first, because if that's low, it could override the chip, to be honest. I'll see, and it's not that hard to swap that chip out. It won't take me long, but I think I've done enough for today that I'm going to call it. Yeah, because we're just getting the same position. We're just getting fixed sync and nothing on screen. So yeah, time to call it a day. What a shame. We had more success if I'd have stopped like an hour ago, but yeah, that's it for this one, guys. I will follow up with this. I'll chuck it in the dishwasher now. Probably I might just swap the BIOS over just for the sake. You know, I just want to see it working myself. Like I say, we're well into a loss on this board anyway. But I might just put the other Japanese cake on and not wire it to the GD-ROM, because that could have wiped out the flash, because that's like, this is kind of a dangerous wire in a way, because it allows the GD-ROM to override the chip's memory, and if that's glitched and screwed up, which is quite possible, that could be the issue we've faced. It could have wiped this chip, basically. So many things it could be. I'm just going to leave the desk in a mess and bugger off for now. So we're not at the end of it yet. I'll give it another quick go, but I'll get this cleaned, and hopefully you might see me on later just to show it off, or I might just chuck it on Discord and show you that we've done it. But yeah, it was worth doing just for showing you how to do crazy trace repair, I guess, as well. So that's pretty much it, guys. I will catch you today or tomorrow. IC601 won't matter. That'll just, all IC601 does is stop. It puts the system into reset. If you remove it, it just can't do that. So that just allows us to boot without that interfering, basically.